That is, to number your days means what? To live well. He said, teach us to live wisely and well. So numbering our days is choosing to live well. Living well means to live by intention. You see, life today needs to have some form of intensity. You need to come with some force. There's so much arrayed against godly living. You need to have some energy, some strength. That's the reason. The culture that God gave to the Jews was so intentional. And you can measure it. You can actually review it. You can know quickly when someone is headed in the wrong direction. Because at age 12, you must have gone through the process they call the bar mitzvah. Bar mitzvah means son of the commandment. That is the one inspired and sustained and directed by God's commandment. The word bar is son of. That is, the commandment is what gave birth to you. It doesn't matter how much of the commandments you know. If you don't turn 30, you can't be a priest. Are you with me? Even Jesus could not operate as a priest. You see, that culture is rooted in accurate parenting, accurate mentoring. You don't have to look far to know that someone is headed in the wrong direction. Today, life is muffled. We can explain anything in any kind of way. God gave them a culture of crafting values, and those values are rich in ceremonies. We're growing in this tradition, and we're going to get better and better and better in it. Sheila was telling these guys to throw a party. See, that's the way to go. He was telling the story of how he got confirmed in the Anglican. I remember when I was confirmed too. In the Methodist, it's not the day I want to remember. Because it made no sense to me. We had a wild party after the confirmation. Drank ourselves to stupor. What were we celebrating? Confirmation. And I remember I came home in the morning terribly, terribly drunk, and my father said to me, he said, the hand that you used to collect communion. Yebeleje is the generic name for Gosco. You know Gosco? That is the botanical name. You know, it's a drink of poor people. Ogogoro. You know, because sapele water for where Collins come from. Right? But grow, you see, we need to be more creative about it. One of the things I want you to know is that how do I give Oyinda, Idris and Tomi, how do I give Oyinda a memory? Somebody said, I think it was Daffy who came here and said he can't remember the affirmation. It must be framed. You need to frame it. Right? Frame it and put it there. So that it can be read on the go. That this is what we said when you were going to high school. And use it to, you know, when people get married, frame your vows. That's why I encourage people to write their vows, not the one Queen Victoria read. You are not Queen Victoria. Write your vow and don't write nonsense. Right? Write something serious. Don't write my tomato, my kinika, you know, my, don't know. Come to meaning. More creativity is required to craft that memory. God is a God of memories. You always hear God say, you remember, right? You remember. You remember. Everybody God works with, he creates memories. They capture very important moments. And the purpose of these ceremonies is to create and deepen the values that we've been teaching. So we still have to read ourselves, because the reason we're still very distant from this, and maybe we'll wait for ROP's formal one, you see, it should become a normal course of life. Families should even have theirs. We should be able to personalize it. Because today, God's commandments, biblical instructions are becoming things that are just means of control. These were lifestyles. He said, the words I speak, they are life. He said, these words, they are your life. Paul wrote to the church in Colossae, Jesus, he is your life. The Bible is not a book you memorize. The Bible is not a book for memory verses. It's not a book you quote. It's a book you must come to embody. We need to read ourselves, especially at this time in Africa. And when I said that, please don't tag me a Pan-Africanist. I am not. I'm not promoting an African, kind of agenda. It's bigger than that. But because that's where I live, we still have great need to rid ourselves of that culture conforming mentality. We are created in the image and likeness of God. God imaging creatures, they create culture. Culture is what enables us to make sense of life. To be able to, that's what gives life meaning. It gives life meaning. And that's what we're trying to do in this church. We're creating culture, but that kind of lifestyle is still alien. But I'm going to stay with it, like he told me while I'm preparing for Wednesday. He said, go over it again. Go over it again. Preach those messages again and again and again. We are culture conformers. We are losing our identity. You know the issues in this church? Weddings, right? Yeah. I was preparing this morning and I said, let me even go to, where did you get that of wedding ring? Right? How many of you ever asked? We just do it. We just do it. In fact, let me tell you, most of the practices in the church are not God's source. They are pagans. And I went to check. I asked Brother Gugu, right? Wedding rings are not from God. Am I saying don't use it? Am I saying I'm going to remove mine tomorrow? No. No. But I know a lot of people who will go into debt because they want to have a wedding ring, right? But let me tell you, it's not from God. It's from an Egyptian culture. You are checking yours, right? It's okay. You see, that whole thing, in Latin is called vena amoris. That is, the Egyptians believe that there is a special vein from this fourth finger of the left hand that goes directly to the heart. Yeah. That's where it comes from. It has not been scientifically proven that there's a vein like that. It's just an Egyptian myth. Nothing wrong with this. But if it becomes a matter of life and death, then you are a pagan, you're an idol worshiper. Wedding gown was first worn in 1559. It wasn't the Garden of Eden. It was worn by a lady called Mary of Scots when he married, a prince. I'm telling you this thing to let you know that whatever you practice today that you want to elevate to the level of God, it is someone's idea. So if we are trying to now create a culture that we can discover is rooted in God, not even in Israel. I said something this week. I suddenly discovered that there is a big difference between evangelical Christians and followers of Christ. Big difference. Especially American evangelicals. Big difference. I'll talk more about that on Wednesdays. Please don't miss it. It became a culture when Queen Victoria wore it when he married Albert in 1840. In fact, before Vicky was black, not white. And those things, they all have meanings. What's the meaning to you of the things that you practice? So for us as a kingdom community, with a prophetic and apostolic mindset, we are a culture creating church because we want to live life in pages. We believe life is like flipping pages in a book. We are people sent by God to serve his purpose in our generation, to serve his purpose to our generation. So we are not here for ourselves, to spend ourselves on ourselves. It's not enough for us to know that. It's more required to live it out and model it to our children. I told you a story here. Something an American friend told me. It's a culture in America that by the time a child is turning 14, he's already committed to many charities. He's already known how to live life beyond himself or herself, to have a heart for the poor. That person can't grow up, right, to listen to someone like a Benny Hinn or saying that when you give you get prosperous. It's a derailment. It's a derailment. We exist for God to be a blessing to our generation. Not anybody can be a blessing to the generation. They are prepared intentionally to become a blessing, beginning from the mind, that not affect choices. This is the value we want to systematize, so that it can be, it can become a system. We want to communicate it to our children. We want to commit it to them that they are sent. The sent must now live life, and live life to the fullest. You see, it is possible, like I said 2 weeks ago here, when God woke me up and said, go and announce that life as designed by the Bible and prescribed by the Bible is a possibility. Do you know you can live a life where your life has no regrets? Like I was telling these guys today, that when you are this wired, when this is the structure of your life, you can say for certain, like David said, the lions fall, right, to me in pleasant place because I have a good heritage. I'm connected to something that cannot fail, right? We can live with such certainty. Reflecting this morning, I remember the day my father told me the story of his dad. And it was because we complained that we spent so much a long time in church on a Good Friday, because that's the only day we fast in our family, right? And my family was such a righteous family, right? My father was very godly. That's the only day we fast. And on that day, service is always very boring. Number one, you're hungry. And then there's this hymn, 21 verses in the Methodist hymn now. And after every verse, they will read those words Jesus spoke on the cross. Me and my siblings will wait. That we can't wait to hear, oh, Paris, and then finally, it's over. If my sister is watching, I know she'll be laughing herself to death. Oh, Paris, we look at ourselves, we're going home. And then after my mom, we still want to attend some meeting. I said, let's go home. And I've not eaten this morning. You still want to, when you are hungry and you are very angry. And my dad told the story that his father, at the time, he was a trader and he traveled. And he came back home and he discovered that he has been robbed. And he picked the Methodist hymn now and sang this 27 verse hymn. 21 verse hymn. On the 21st verse, he said he died. And I remember the refrain in that song. How can I ever forget? It's a torture. That is, Jesus, have mercy on us. You know the song I'm talking. Only it's a torture. That song reminds me of hunger. This I know that I want for this mercy is food. He said at the 21st verse, and the way we have stories of godly men passing on. They said they would dust their feet, right, and put their feet on the bed and lie down and sleep. That's how they die. See, my dad at the time, you know, he was no longer afraid of what's going to happen. Before he died, he handed over. Say, you know, you girls, if you want to marry, don't come to me again. Go and meet your brother. That's a fulfilled man. I envy his kind of life. And you see, it's still possible. Young man I met in IFES was one of their, you know, their executives. And I know the wife always comes for those kind of meetings. I said, where is your wife? I said, Pastor, you can't believe where she is. I said, they are right now in the mortuary praying for one of their sisters to wake up from the dead. He was not telling me that this is a common practice now. Right? It's a common practice. People are no longer fulfilled. We didn't read that in the Bible. You see, godly men know the time. There was a time, the Bible said, and Elisha was sick, right? With the sickness, right? That he was going to what? To die. Because death is another page. Right? It's another page. Paul wrote to Timothy, said, guys, I am now being poured out, right? As a drink offering. And the time of my... That's not an unfortunate guy. That's a fulfilled guy. I have fought a good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. That's a man who lived full talking. It's possible. He said, finally there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give to me on that day. And it's not just to me because I'm Paul of Tarsus. It's to everyone who live by that prescription. When every stage of life as revealed by God is harvested, you can able to say that. I remember it was Wale who gave a story years ago. Said he was traveling by road, night bus or something, and said there were armed robbers who came, you know, and they pointed a gun at him and said, remember, no, there's still work to be done. It can't end now, right? It can't end now, right? It cannot. This is not the end, because there are many plans that is made, right? So easy, we can live with that kind of certainty. Life requires, for meaning and preparation for the next phase, it must be done with intention. I don't know the gifts that you bought, what it will remind these kids of. Because those gifts are supposed to actually be also what? Be memorials. We live in a day, guys, where life has to be so intense. We need to come to a point where our children born into this community are seen and reckoned as they are God sent for a purpose. They are not victims for herdsmen, right? No. Because the biggest challenge in our day today is growing up. Right? It's growing up. Biggest challenge, imagine righteously. Biggest challenge, parenting. We have to be so decisive, intentional. Naming ceremonies, baby dedications need to be so intentional, not just an item. I believe we need to get our naming ceremonies more intentional, and I've made a prescription here, and that's what we're going to do. There must be another day when the video recording, right, of that 8th day or the 21st day is played for the child in another well-intentioned ceremony.